your host, Sandman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy Jeff.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting wrestling show from the last, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. The weekend of WrestleMania. This is Indymania 2, which is a compilation of matches uh, curated by Wrestle Talk from 13 different wrestling organizations across the world. And
Is it really across the world? Because I know Australia was part of it, and then it was pretty much UK, and then I think one or two promotions from the US. Otherwise, it was pretty much all UK stuff.
I suppose, but I mean that's still, Australia to the United States is kind of across the world.
Fair enough.
But and it's amazing that on a show featuring Pete Dunne versus Will Ospreay, and also having one of your and my favorites in Sami Callihan, neither of those matches hit my top two.
See, now I might be a little bit. Uh, I Yeah, maybe on the night. I think the Kenny Omega match was a lot more interesting. I love the fact that we saw a Meltzer driver off the turnbuckle and not only off the side of the ropes. And there
Yeah.
was another match that might surprise you that I really enjoyed up until the overbooked ending. Um, but all in all, I would not have expected Will Ospreay and Pete Dunne to not be better than it was. And anything with Sami Callihan and ACH versus each other, I would have thought would have been amazing. So you're
But
right.
it was not.
You're right. Both those two were not my favorites. I did like the fact that Sammy was a wrestler and not the hardcore whatever he's become. That was interesting, but the match itself was way too long, way too convoluted. Um, Kind of told the same story over and over again, where there was no really twists or turns to the story. It was just the same story from start to finish. It just took 22 minutes to complete.
Yeah, it was not. It was nothing special, and and as our longtime listeners our longtime listener maybe will know. Um,
Hey, we have three of them.
when matches feature finisher kickouts in order to build drama and they're not logical, they lose me, and that's what happened in this one.
Yeah,
You know,
which was sad. Like I said, it was a great thing seeing Sammy wrestle. I haven't seen Sammy actually wrestle since NXT. So it was a great thing to actually see him in a wrestling match. I just got so sick of the finisher kickouts towards the end of it that I couldn't even really stomach the finish.
no, and the other thing that really got to me, and it kind of got me out of the match, but then I got back into it before the finisher's kickout started getting me out of it was the whole like slap fight in the middle of the beginning of the match.
I didn't mind that, but we've
I
seen
guess
it done
it's
better.
just seen it done better, and it's become such a trope over the years that I'm just over it. I'm over two guys just not actually, because the idea of pro wrestling is to make it look like an actual fight.
Right.
Excuse me. To make it look like you're hurting your opponent while you're actually protecting him. And to me, in an actual fight, nobody's going to stand there and say, "Okay, hit me as hard as you can. Now you hit me as hard. Now I'll hit you as hard as I can," and then go back and forth like that.
I think the only time I've ever really seen it where I've been enthralled by it, where I've cringed, I've really felt every blow was the one we just saw with Dragon Lee and Takahashi.
I think for me it was also, we also had some great spots with Shibata and Ishii doing it too.
But they never did it to start a match. That was
No,
always
not to start a
that's
match.
always a mid-match thing for them. With this one with Sammy and ACH, it was kind of a start. They'd gotten a couple moves in, and then that was a start. And with Dragon Lee and Takahashi, that was definitely the start of their match.
True. Yeah.
You know, we're,
And that was
we're
pretty. And that was awesome. You're right.
every time we get it with Shibata and Ishii, it's always been kind of mid-match, you kick me, I'll kick you type thing. It's never really started the match like these guys have.
And maybe my favorite with Shibata and Ishii was when they traded suplexes.
Yeah, that was good. Those two had such great chemistry.
They did.
I mean, all in all, I thought night one was good. I really liked the Bucks match, the Bucks and Omega. I really liked that match.
Night two you're talking about?
Yeah. But after that match, it kind of got somewhat repetitive, and especially those last three matches were, and I know I recognized a couple of the names from my indie stuff, and maybe hardcore indie fans will know these people. I just don't know why they didn't do like they did with night one. Like night one, that Ospreay match to end it against I can't remember, Dowie James was fantastic. Was a great way to end the night. This one, I felt like the last two matches especially, were just terrible. There was nothing I couldn't get into either one of them. I know people really liked that lady announcer in the final match. I just couldn't get into her. The match before that was too much screaming by one guy and too much soft talking by the other guy, and then the wrestling itself was not up to par. And as much as I love the third to last match with the Harlem Globetrotter guy, and I can't remember, and
Carlo Bravado?
Yeah, forgive me. I've been trying to find a match results thing or a match card thing. I can't find it anywhere, so I'm not going to remember a lot of the names. But Harlem Bravado and whoever that other guy was, the match was amazing. I was really, really into that match until that overbooked finish with 14 people coming down to rescue people and things happening and stuff going on. It was too much. But the match leading up to that I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, see, I really liked the women's match to end it. I'm not sure I would have picked it as the final match, but I did really enjoy that. What was the second to last match?
Honestly, at this point, I cannot remember.
Okay.
But I do know that after the Sammy ACH stuff, I was like done. I couldn't get into a single match after that. I know right after the Sammy ACH stuff, there was that Harlem Bravado match, which I thought was great, but the ending was so bad that I was just done with it. And then the last two matches I couldn't get into at all. And it really saddened me.
Yeah, see, and I kind of had the opposite problem. I think like the first night I watched this on Friday night, and I was just exhausted after a long work week, and so even the opening match, like Will Ospreay versus Pete Dunne, I just dozed off like right during it.
I love the fact that you responded to me 3 days later on that.
Which I like. Well, I was like, I'm not sure what he was talking about. I'll have to catch up. So. I was always planning to rewatch it. I just didn't have a chance last night.
I just really love the fact that it took you that long to respond to me, and I was like, oh, he hasn't watched it yet. Whoops. But that Ospreay Dunne match, as long as you brought that up, I do want to say it's, I've had a fascination with Marty Scurll. He to me is one of the better. He to me is one of the better performers out there. I've never not been entertained by one of his matches, and it's fun to watch, and we saw it a couple times during Indymania, and we saw it, we've seen it in other matches too, where people like to show homage to Marty Scurll, with the chicken wing and the 52 fake out and the finger breaks and all that stuff. It was just, to me, that was a fun spot to see in this, where when you look at indie wrestling or wrestling in general in Europe, that Marty has become such a well-known product that his stuff is just paid homage to throughout matches.
My dog is now pissed off at me.
Why? Because I mentioned Marty Scurll?
No, did you hear that squeaky going on in the background?
Yeah.
She's playing with a squeaky ball, and I threw it for her, but it bounced into the kitchen where she can't get to it.
Oh, she's a mad dog now.
She's just staring like, Dad, why am I in jail?
That's funny. My kid is just staring at Minecraft, so. I can't relate to that.
No, Minecraft is one of those games that just I find completely mind-numbing.
I do too, but you know what? It helps his little mind. He creates things. He has fun. He keeps out of my hair for a while, so I'm okay with it. If it was a mindless shooter like Call of Duty, I'd have issues with it, but this kid's building houses, and right now he's tunneling out underneath the ground to build a cave, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, honestly, like rewatching that Osprey versus Dunn match, I was sat there watching it, was enjoying like every moment of it. Like
Right.
It was so well crafted. There was such good humor in there. It was like the perfect opening match. It's like these two guys could open any wrestling show for me, or this could be like the template for an opening match for a wrestling show.
Well,
Like,
and
everybody to go Luke, everybody fired up, get everybody ready to go.
And the funny thing about them,
it was a perfect choice to come in this compilation to have it start off the show. I thought.
the funny thing about those two is I could see those two closing a match too. Closing a night. So it's like they're the perfect. With Osprey and Dunn, I could watch those two at any point during a pay-per-view. They could get me fired up for it. They could send me home happy for it. They'd get me back into it in the middle of a show. Those two could go on at any time, anywhere, and completely be the steal of the night.
Well, Osprey's one of 4 guys we've seen close a show. One of 4 cruiserweights or junior heavyweights to close a show in New Japan, right? It was him against Robbie Eagles, and then there was another one like not far before that, like that closed the show. But I mean, it's very rare that a junior heavyweight match closes a show in New Japan,
Right?
Or anywhere really. But Osprey's been in one of those 2 times,
and he's so good at it, so good at it that he is. And I put in my description that we're talking about this and the fact that we didn't get to Wrestlers of the Year last week because of my whole Benoit diatribe. But we'll probably talk about it later. But I can't picture anybody out there better than Osprey right now.
No, there isn't. And this had to take place in the last. I didn't see the date on this, but it had to take place in the last couple of years because they did mention that Pete Dunne was the NXT. Not the NXT, but the WWE UK champion.
Yep.
During this match.
Yeah, so I want to say it if I remember right, because it was looking at the Osprey hairstyle. This match was only a couple years old. It wasn't 2019. It might have been 18, but it was definitely when both these guys were at kind of that tipping point where they both became because they both kind of became the best wrestlers in the world in 2019. And this was kind of right at the cusp of that because they were both so good at storytelling, they were both so good at what they were doing that it's hard to imagine that they weren't right on that cusp of being the best wrestlers in the world.
Right. I mean, the thing that I kind of found interesting was that they didn't call the Cheeky Nanos kick the Cheeky Nanos kick. The one guy called it like a Tombstone Snake Eyes combination.
Yeah, I had some issues with the announcing throughout both shows, so, but especially night 2.
Well, no, I'm not saying there was a problem with the announcing. I was just wondering if this happened like right before Osprey hit it big, so they knew what all his moves were called.
Well, maybe. I mean, but the Cheeky Nando's kick has been called the Cheeky Nando's kick for almost 5 years now.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
I mean, and they called it that in the beginning of in New Japan years ago.
Okay, well, then I guess it was just the answers being a moron then.
Well, I mean, there were issues with the announcing throughout, but these guys aren't the big time, so I'm not really going to criticize them. And the same thing with some of the matches. I didn't personally find them entertaining, but I'm not going to criticize them because they're not big time. I'll criticize NJPW and All Elite Wrestling and WWE and even Ring of Honor and Impact. I'll criticize them for the performances. But anybody in an independent circuit, they're going out there, they're trying to make a name for themselves, they're putting on hella shows. Every match, even that finals women's match, I found something to enjoy in it. So I'm not going to criticize any of these guys, but there were definitely some issues in there.
No, the professional wrestling is a lot like stand-up comedy, where you go out there in front of small crowds and then increasingly larger crowds, but you're always trying to see what works. You're trying to see what works in my repertoire. Where can I put this in? How can I build to a 10-minute match? How can I build to a 20-minute match? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think when you're watching shows like this, I think you really have to take that into account, where these guys are honing their craft still.
Right. And there were a couple of moments where you're looking at it going, oh, they shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you know what? I don't have a problem with the fact that they didn't have. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have, but it's not the end of the world. Where if a WWE guy had done that same thing, I'd be like, what the hell's wrong with him? He knows better. I honestly, I think anyone who's a wrestling fan, whether you buy a shirt or not, like I know both Shane and I did, or you give to the GoFundMe, or you just watch this. If you're a wrestling fan, there's a lot to take out of this that you're not going to get in the big promotions.
Including my favorite match on the card, which was the match involving the bear.
Oh my god, I was hoping that didn't come up. Oh, and I was hoping that wasn't your favorite match. I was afraid you were going to say that, because where it had some strengths as far as like the comedy and the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing? Why haven't I fast forwarded this? Oh, that's right, Rory Coyle is here and I have to see what he does.
You didn't think it was great that they were playing the whole thing like it was an actual bear?
I thought that was hysterical. I thought had I been there live, I would have been rolling on the ground laughing. The honey spot was amazing. The fact that whoever that Timberwolf guy was, the guy I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
But you know who I'm talking about, the guy with the flannel and the guy who was supposed to be a lumberjack. The fact that he literally stole everybody's moves. Like, he did the Steve Austin elbow drop from the middle rope. He did the Shawn Michaels tuning the band. He did the angle slam right into the, straps down the angle and the ankle lock. He perfectly did everybody's moves. And the whole spot in the middle where he was playing dead was phenomenal. I loved it. I laughed out loud. But at the same time, I'm like, man, how did this ever make the broadcast? You can't tell me there was another better show.
Man. It was so much fun.
It was fun, I will admit. It was really fun, and I really did enjoy it. But at the same time, I'm like, Jesus. It's almost unwatchable, but it's fun at the same time.
Well, the great thing was, like, when he was first bringing the bear down to the cage, it was so dark, and the guy moving in there was so fast. I was like, wait, that's not a bear. That's like an orangutan or something.
See, I saw his face right from the beginning, so I knew it was. I knew as soon as he walked back there. I don't know if it was a camera shot problem or something, but they showed it was a guy in a bear suit right from the start. So I knew it right from the start, and I'm watching this going, what the fuck? And then that beekeeper guy coming down. What was that all about? And I'm watching, of course I'm watching this at, with my kid in bed next to me, so I don't have the volume too loud, so I actually didn't get to hear what the beekeeper guy was saying. Mm-hmm. But it sounded to me like he was an activist who was trying to keep this unsensible cruelty from happening.
Yes, I think that's what it was as well. Yeah, he was not well mic'd. You could barely understand what the hell he was saying.
Well, even Rory Coyle felt that was not really well mic'd. I'm not gonna lie, it was nice to see Rory Coyle.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that he's keeping up with the sick boy and the VHS cage. That was nice to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I loved, that match was just, to me, like an example of what you can do in pro wrestling that you can't do in any other art form. You know, I mean,
Well,
this would not have worked as a short film. It would not have worked as a painting or a book or anything like that. It could only have worked in professional wrestling.
it can only work in independent professional wrestling. Like you and I did that whole wrestling thing on, our own version of Wrestle Kingdom or WrestleMania, whatever we called it, and I had
Yeah,
an independent match, which was there were cartwheels and jumping jacks and all that stuff in the middle of the match. And I remember saying to you, you're like, "This is one of your matches." I'm like, "Dude, this can only happen in an independent wrestler and it has to be a part of the card." And you ultimately agreed with me after you watched it. But this kind of thing, it was like, this is why independent wrestling needs to survive, because we're never going to see a bear versus lumberjack with glory coil and hunting and this nonsense happen anywhere. That would never get over on AEW. Definitely not in Japan. WWF, Ring of Honor, Impact might be the closest something like that could get over on, but at the same point, you could see them being booed on and critics just destroying them. But an independent wrestling promotion can do something like that and make it work, and they did.
yeah, exactly. It was joyful to me, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It was definitely fun. I will give it that. Was it great wrestling? Not even close. But the whole
Oh,
presentation,
I didn't say it was great wrestling. I said it was my favorite thing. I said it was my favorite match on the card.
the way that the bear and this lumberjack played off each other, the glory coil intervention, the gatekeeper, the fact that at the end this guy was actually cutting a promo to entice the bear to come and be his sidekick, and they're gonna have a bear on the pole match. I'm intrigued by the whole thing. It was entertaining from start to finish. It was cringeworthy, but it was entertaining.
Well, hopefully you liked my second favorite match of the night better than which was Amazing Red versus Ricochet.
That was
I
to
I thought that was an actual balls out athletic display by those two.
to steal a phrase I overuse with phenomenal. I'm gonna say that match was amazing. That was
Yes.
absolutely my favorite match on the card, and
Yeah, it was outstanding. I mean, for so many years, like watching Impact or TNA at the time, I suppose I enjoyed Amazing Red, but I also thought he was overrated. In this match, I thought his veteran status and his abilities really showing through, and he's maybe the best I ever saw him was in this match.
and you saw a lot of what made him amazing. The fact that he was such an innovator with his offense, and he brought a lot of that in it. Plus, you got Ricochet, and the whole world went crazy about this time between the Osprey Ricochet match, because they were about the same time. It was 2016, 16, something like that. Um, and you saw the whole world go crazy over Osprey Ricochet. They should have been going crazy over this match. This was by far my favorite match of the entire night. I'm glad you actually said that, because I agreed with you. It was easily. I loved Osprey versus Gunn. I loved the Bucks and Omega. I loved a lot of the stuff on this, but this match was by far my favorite of the 2 nights.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, as far as pure wrestling, this was my favorite. Um, and and yeah, I mean, I think the reason that people did not go crazy on this match is simply it did not take place in a big enough promotion. I mean, this was an Amazing Red's promotion, House of Glory. So it's not as well known. It didn't have that platform that New Japan Pro Wrestling has.
Yeah, but that match with Osprey and Ricochet happened on Independence too.
No, what happened in New Japan?
Was it? I thought that was an independent show. I thought
I'm
the
almost
ori-
100.
I
I'm
thought
almost
the
100% sure it was New Japan.
I thought the original one happened on an independent show, and then the remake happened in New Japan. And I know I was critical about the remake because they were trying to recreate the same night, and
Oh,
it was called a different show.
oh, I could be wrong about that then, but
But you
yeah,
probably know the same thing.
I mean, I thought Osprey and Ricochet was fantastic as well. I'm not going to say that should not have caught the attention. But I do think that that was not an example of what the two would do in another match against each other because of all like the the extreme selling and the swearing and all that kind of stuff. It's not stuff that you've heard from those guys since then.
Well, and that wasn't a WWE Ricochet either.
Right.
Yeah, and you could tell that in his performance that he's not the same guy that he was when he was, in Lucha Underground and when he was in New Japan and on the Independents. He is now kind of a tamed down version of what he was, but that's the WWE too.
One more thing about this show, and I'm not saying I have nothing else to say about it, but I mean, can we get rid of the both these guys chant?
Yes, please, dear God. That was in the last 3 matches?
Yes.
And even before Sammy and ACH got started, they were chanting both these guys.
Yeah. And it's just I guess it's where we're at in pro wrestling right now, where people like pay attention to the wrestler more than to their character. But I mean, it really takes away from the storyline when you're chanting for both these guys.
I mean, I kind of got it in the ACH Sammy, and this was weird because Sammy was really playing he was more of a face than a heel. And ACH was clearly the face. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got it a little bit in that match, but in some of the other matches, I was like, okay, enough. You don't need to chant just to chant.
No, you don't have to, and that's what it seems like they want to do. And for most of the night, I was impressed at the things that they weren't doing, like the stupid there wasn't really any dueling chants, that was one thing about that really impressed me with the sophistication of the crowd in the Dunn Ospreay one is they cheered for each guy throughout of it.
Right.
There was never a dueling chant like Ospreay Dunn.
There was.
They would really cheer for whoever was behind, basically.
The only time they really did the dueling chant was during the Callahan ACH match. There was a lot of let's go ACH Sammy Callahan.
Right, exactly.
But other than that match, which again I was a little more lenient because they were kind of both playing the babyface. Outside of that match, I was okay with it. The one thing that really stuck out from that match, though, was they announced Sammy as being from New Jersey, and he was
did they?
Yeah, and he was in the middle of his OVE Worldwide Desperado Callahan Death Machine thing. So the fact that they announced him from New Jersey really kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's weird.
That was okay, guys. Come on, he's from Ohio now.
That's pretty funny.
Outside of that, I really liked that match, but at the same time, I was like, it just went on about 5 to 6 minutes too long. The finisher kickouts got a little bit too much. The fact that he kicked out of ACH's finisher and only to succumb to ACH's finisher 2 minutes later was a little rough. But the match itself.
Wait, what do you mean? Sammy Callahan won that match?
No, I thought ACH won it.
No, he won it with a small package.
Wow, I lost something somewhere. I could have swore ACH won that.
No, Callahan rolled him up for the victory. The crowd was booing the shit out of it.
Maybe it was a different match then, where I know that somebody hit a finisher and then 30 seconds later hit the finisher for the win.
Don't remember that happening.
I
did think that the Pete Dunne Will Ospreay match, that Pete Dunne's victory kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Ospreay hit him with like 5 straight moves, and then
Pete Dunne
caught it in the Os cutter and turned it into the bitter end for the victory.
Yeah, that was a little odd. All in all, though, if you're a fan of wrestling, period, it doesn't even have to be independent wrestling. If you can't get enjoyment out of these 2 nights of Indymania, I feel sorry for you. I really do.
The only thing that I warn you about on night 2 is you'll have to watch a Kanji match if you're going to watch the whole thing straight through.
I didn't mind that. You'd said I didn't miss her, and I was like, what are you talking about? And then when I watched the match, I was like, you know what? This might be the best I've ever seen Kanji. Kanji, whatever.
It's still Kanji. It doesn't matter how good she was.
Yeah, but she was actually fairly decent in that match, so I didn't hate it as much as you did. But it was still. Yeah, you're right. It was still Kanji.
I almost texted you after that match was over when I was watching it that at least she lost, but I didn't want to spoil it for you. So.
Oh, I kind of figured she would as soon as I saw who she was going up against. Oh, because she was going up against somebody.
And we just saw her in the other show, didn't we? Sorry.
Which other show?
Wasn't her opponent also part of the Wrestle Talk No Fans Monday?
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
Yeah, and I enjoyed her in that too. I mean, her opponent I really enjoyed. Her, I can see where you've got some animosity there.
I don't have animosity. I just felt like she came in like she was a big deal in. I guess I just had a problem with Defiant more than her, but she just came in like they when she came in there.
My kid is filling a Minecraft map full of dynamite, and he's gonna blow the entire map up.
I don't care.
I'm just like, what the hell is happening
I just feel like
here?
Defiant was treating her like the second coming.
Yeah, they really did overdo it with her, and they threw her into a spot where she didn't deserve it and really didn't have the work ethic. And then, to make things even worse, they kind of made her go away with the whole thing of, oh, I don't deserve this.
Right.
So it really did kind of bring her down a little more than she probably should have been. I don't think she's horrible, but at the same time, I can see a lot better, and I don't hate anybody for not liking her.
Fair enough.
I think in a few...
But I mostly echo your sentiment that any fan of indie pro wrestling in general, and definitely independent pro wrestling, would enjoy these 2 nights of wrestling.
Yeah, there was some really good, fun stuff. Anything that had Ospreay in it was amazing. The ZSJ Shibata stuff was amazing. I loved that Dowie James Ospreay match. Still might be one of my favorites of the year. I even like the Sammy versus ACH stuff for the most part. The Harlem, and I can't remember his name against whoever it was really, really good until that overbooked ending. There was a lot of really, really fun stuff to like about this, and as much as from a purist wrestling mind, I hated the Rory Coyle Bear versus Lumberjack thing, but at the same time, the only place you're ever going to see anything like that is in independent wrestling. So you need to take that with a grain of salt, realize that it's all enjoyment and fun, and know what you're getting into, and just fucking enjoy it.
Exactly.
It might have been a little too much. It might have been a little hysterical at times, but the ultimate reality is it was fun to watch. It was fun to see what they were going to do next, and it was just fun, really fun. And I want to see the Bear on a Polo match. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that was really interesting. It's like, how are you going to put a bear on top of a pole?
I
suppose you can put a Judy Bagwell on a pole, you can put anything on.
Right, exactly. I was just going to say that. We got Judy Bagwell up there. How can we get a bear up there? The chant, the fucking bear chant, just everybody chanting fucking bear was one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So we got
I was just checking my order to see if I had any information about when my shirt was shipping, but I still have not received that yet.
Yeah, I haven't either, and I don't have a shipment date, so I'm a little disappointed, but I'm going to wear that with pride when I get it.
Me too.
The one thing that, we're kind of running low on time here, and we spent a little more time on Indymania night 2 than I thought we would, but last week, someone got a little emotional about the Benoit thing, and
Sorry about that.
I watched. Well, it's not your fault. I watched the end
I know,
of it.
I was kidding.
Oh, well then fuck you, dude. I watched the end of it. My feeling remains the same. So if you want to hear my take on the Chris Benoit tragedy and everything that happened, what I said last week, even watching the last 20 minutes of it, remains the same. Period. End of story. I think there were so many things that could have happened that didn't happen, that it actually makes me more sad for the individual, and I will still watch every single Chris Benoit match the exact same way I've always watched them. I'll enjoy the artist even though I don't necessarily I'll enjoy the art even though I don't necessarily appreciate the artist for what he did.
Yeah, and it's not gonna. I'm not gonna go out of my way to avoid them or anything. It's just that, I very rarely go back and watch an old WCW or WWE show anyway. I'm much more focused on the stuff that we're covering.
After what I watched today, I kind of want to go back and watch a few things. Just
you don't have time.
So I probably won't. I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm saying I won't.
Gotcha.
Anyway, we did want to talk about something last week that we never got to. And that is our wrestlers of the year so far this year.
Yes, but it's not necessarily our wrestlers of the year as much as the wrestlers that we've watched this year. Just right. Because it's been such a weird year for pro wrestling, and
just out of retrospect, I'm gonna blame you for this whole virus thing. Because I remember in December of last year, you said, hey, I have this great idea for what we could do next year. Instead of going after our wrestlers of the year, maybe we should go after the best wrestlers that we've seen this year.
Yeah.
That's on you, Buttercup.
Buttercup?
You set this virus in motion by even bringing that idea up.
Well, I said it in the context of the fact that, one of my favorite authors is Stephen King. And I'm not sure if he still does it or not, but for a long time, for Entertainment Weekly, he would do an annual thing about the best books that he read this year. He didn't do the best books that he read that were written this year, just the best books he'd had a chance to read that year. And I got a lot of great ideas from those lists. So, of course, you don't know how to read, so you wouldn't care about that.
Right,
but
exactly.
but it's kind of the same concept where, we're watching so much retro stuff anyway, that why are we limiting it to, and there's so many things that we have never seen before. Like, for instance, that Terry Funk versus
Shane Douglas, that three-way.
No, I was thinking that Terry Funk versus Harley Race match that we watched.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Was absolutely fantastic. It belonged in our list, in our top 10 list, really.
Right. Well, and it did, and I didn't disagree with you because of the retro shows we do. The eventually we're going to bring back that Desert Island. In fact, I think we might want to take a break since I'm going to be renewing Ring of Honor anyway. Because, well, I just have a hard time not. We might want to bring back the Desert Island series, at least for one or two segments this year. But there's so many matches that you and I, and so many artists that you and I watch that aren't in the current scope, that it's not a bad idea to do something like that anyway.
Right.
Maybe do two lists. Hey, this was the best wrestler of the year in 2020, but this was the best wrestler I saw this year.
And the crazy thing is that very rarely in the course of professional wrestling has the same guy been the best wrestler 2 consecutive years.
We have one on there right now, on the way right now.
Yeah, and right now, I don't think there's any question that Will Ospreay is still the best wrestler on the planet.
I think the last time that really happened might have been Austin in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I could make an argument for Edge in the late 2000s, but it's been a long time since we can look back. I mean, even Okada. But when you reach that pinnacle, too, it was a lot like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan could have been named the MVP every single year, all the time, every year, no question. But you couldn't do it because that's just too easy. And when you look at a guy like Okada or AJ Styles, from 2012 to 2016, you could have literally named him the best wrestler in the world for 4 straight years.
Sure.
Okada could have easily taken it from 15 and 16, and Omega since. But at the same time, you've got to kind of go, okay, yeah, we've seen that. What else can you do?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably make an argument that Nigel McGuinness was the best wrestler on the planet of 2008 to 2009, but then you also had Randy Orton's breakout performance in 2009 as well.
Right, you had Randy Orton in 2009, probably 2010 and 2011. You could have had Edge. Edge easily could have been in that conversation too around that time, because he was putting out classic after classic too.
Well, 2011 is when he got injured.
Right, okay, yeah, WrestleMania. But even that WrestleMania run before that, he was putting out great stuff that could have... You seriously could have made an argument that first 3 months of the year, he did enough to warrant that position.
Wow. I cannot believe you just made that argument, because do you know how many people out there have ragged on that face run by Edge?
Really?
2011.
His Elimination Chamber match, the fact that he, his performance in the Royal Rumble, the WrestleMania match itself, everything he did on SmackDown, I don't know how you can rag on that.
Because I just think that there's people out there that refuse to see how good Edge could be as a babyface.
He was amazing. That might have been my favorite run of his. That could be why I took it so hard when he retired.
I'd have to say my favorite run of his was his series against The Undertaker.
God, that was good too.
That 5 or 6 month span where they were trading victories back and forth and facing up against each other and had that amazing storyline. That's my favorite Edge.
You can't forego his Team X stuff though either.
Yes, I can.
No. I mean, maybe his in-ring performance, but his character development during that time, the Team Ek and the ENC, the 5-second poses, the backstage segments with Foley, that stuff was amazing.
Yeah, it was. But as far as an actual dramatic performance, but remember, I'm always going to enjoy, bear aside, I'm always going to enjoy drama.
I don't know, his segment, I think it was like 2001. They had a backstage segment with him and Christian, and he was talking about the greatest thing about his wardrobe, and the best thing about his boots is the name on the side of them. And Christian just looks over, he's like, huh, I never noticed that before. Still, hands down, one of the best segments I've ever seen on any wrestling TV.
What did it say on the side of it?
Just, it said Edge.
Oh.
It was just that whole arrogant... That was when they were doing the kazoo in the back, and Edge is screaming, you think you know me, you think you know me, or whatever Triple H's theme music was at the time.
As long as you're on the subject, I had mentioned to you last week that I had a dark horse that I think a lot of people would just be like, but I would say this, but I mean, right now in WWE for me, Edge is the guy.
You think so?
Both of the matches that I've seen from him this year have been absolutely lights out. The match against Randy Orton to me was a 5-star performance.
Yes, absolutely. 100%
then
I agree.
and then the Royal Rumble was probably my second favorite WWE match of the year, and he was a starring role in that one.
It's hard to disagree with that simply because we haven't seen much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Edge performance was good. It was a great feel-good moment. But I still have to give, that performance in that Royal Rumble, it comes down to 2 people. Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar.
I think the first half of it goes to Brock Lesnar, but I'm not going to say the rest of it goes to Drew McIntyre, because the second half was an ensemble performance.
Right, but it still ultimately came down to
Sure, but I'm saying that Edge was a participant in my two favorite matches of the year.
All right, fine. Let me correct you. And I can't disagree with you.
If Drew McIntyre had that great match at the Rumble and had a fantastic match against Brock Lesnar, I'd be saying the same thing about him. But he did not do that at WrestleMania. And you're right. I mean, I and you're right. And you're right in that that I have a limited set to choose from in my WWE matches I've watched. Um, but I've seen matches involving AJ Styles. I saw the Elimination Chamber matches. I've seen the NXT performances, and I saw every match at WrestleMania, and still for actual wrestling, I would say that Edge is my WWE Performer of the Year.
Is it just me, or does the elimination or the WrestleMania match on Cena feel a bit murky relative to his NXT run?
I haven't been high on AJ Styles' performances for a long time.
He still is he's not that A plus entertaining worker like he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's still giving me complex business performances. And his I felt like his WrestleMania match was C minus to his NXT performance on the downside. And it is 2025. I mean, his actual, I mean, like I said, I've said this to you before, and I'll say it again. His restricted element is he chases a bit the three things that make him good at his original stardom. His determination to like his opponents, his athleticism. And for that, all you have is a guy in punch and kick.
Yeah, which is why I don't think it's fair to judge him for that match. I mean, what I'm saying is that I don't think he's been the same AJ Styles since like WrestleMania 35. I would
Against Shinsuke.
no against Shinsuke.
Okay.
So
That was from not so great technical style too. When you look at the other wrestlers that he faced.
and even the year before that, when he was facing up against Kevin Owens, I didn't think that was that great either. So I mean, really, the best we saw in AJ Styles was in 2016 when he was the wrestler of the company. You know, um,
Yeah, his
I
recent stuff.
he's aging. He had to reformulate his style. He's just not, and character wise and Mike wise, he's gotten better. But as far as an in ring performer,
He's definitely
other
turned
other
around.
other than a couple of matches here and there, like against Daniel Bryan, and then that last minute standing match against Shinsuke that I think you've never even watched. Um, to me, his best stuff was prior to 2017.
Yeah, and 2016 was his year-long run. Unfortunately, that had the James Ellsworth equivalent chin guy involvement in the mix, but he still had a really good run going for him. I think probably the best AJ that he had was because after that he lost his stuff. He's kind of not been able to be AJ, which even at maybe 33, athleticism is still his weapon. And he can't bring that to the ring, which he can because he has accelerated age and the fact that he's still young and the Undertaker was behind him. It was really hard to partner with. It was hard.
Well, and let's quantify that a little bit. I think he can't bring it in a WWE ring. I think he could in Ring of Honor, or he could in some of the in House of Glory, just because of the fact that there's less of a space to work in. When it's 14 by 14 or 18 by 18, you can still pull off the stuff he used to do. But when he's got to go 20 by 20, he really only had that 1 year that he was in that kind of that size of a ring. You know.
And the fact that even in Ring of Honor, he was playing where he still got icon and still had a guy that he can be able to bring in that depth. He was quicker to create a perfect situation where he could kind of take. And
Hmm.
the sad part is, it's really sad because that's a guy that I would be lovely to keep on the roster. I
Right.
find the resurgence of the Undertaker kind of disgusting.
Yeah, and for me it was him and Low-Ki at the same time. Then when Low-Ki kind of became Kowal, then AJ took over completely.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the stuff AJ did, and someday won't be the Asylum years too. But when you look at AJ from 02 to 07, I don't know if there's anyone better. No matter what he did, his stuff with Christian Cage is still some of my favorite stuff.
Speaking of TNA and the Asylum years, we had talked about doing Bound for Glory 2005 next, but I also saw that Impact is doing their Rebellion pay-per-view in segments instead of doing it on a pay-per-view. They're doing it on their regular Impact show. Night 1 is tonight, and Night 2 is next Tuesday. So I think we should cover that in the next couple of weeks instead.
Is that going to be on the app?
Yep.
Because I won't be able to watch it on Access, but...
No, it should be on the app, because they're doing it as their Impact episodes.
So you want to do Night 1 next week, then?
Yeah. And Night 1 is capped off by Sammy again, this time taking on the Great King Shamrock.
Ugh. Ugh. I don't know what else to say.
And then we also have Ace Austin taking on Willie Mack for the X Division title.
So anyway, quickly, want to run down the five wrestlers of the year? We kind of pinpointed Ospreay as our number one, but who you got running out that top five?
Okay, so again, this is not for the 2020. This is just who I've seen wrestle this year. So number 2 is Eddie Edwards.
Yep.
Number 3 is Davey Richards.
Eef.
Did you say Eve?
Yes.
Not sure what that means. Honestly, I kind of lost my list. I don't remember. I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. Number 4. I don't know. Why don't you go with yours? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember mine now.
I'm gonna go Ospreay and Edwards, and then probably ZSJ. I still have to put Takahashi in there, and then probably Davey Richards at number 5.
Okay. So yeah, so ZSJ would be my number 4, and then I think Roderick Strong would be my number 5.
Okay. Oh, geez, Roderick Strong is in there too. That's a tough one. But Takahashi had such great matches against Dragon Lee and against Ospreay. It's hard for me not to include him. But man, Roderick Strong was really good there too. In all the Ring of Honor stuff we watched, I think the fact that he wasn't in their latest Best in the World might be kind of giving me on him a little bit. But he was so good in those feuds, in everything he did on All then.
Yeah, and then he's also been great in NXT this year too.
Yeah, he has. His feud against Velveteen Dream, I can't stand Velveteen Dream, but his feud against him is one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, it's been great. And let's see, the other guys that we had, other guys we talked about were, I mean, you wanted to throw Sammy Guevara in the conversation, which I'm not going to do, but.
I just think he's been.
We've also got, there's also Hangman, there's Kenny, there's Darby Allin, so.
Things that are hurting Hangman is the fact that he hasn't been around for 2 months. Sammy, you take out these last 2 weeks with the comedy bullshit he's done, I think he's had a really strong year, but these last 2 matches have really kind of frowned me on him, especially last week. That I don't know if he'd be in my top 10 again anymore.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's just it's frowned me so much on what I've seen, and then when you've seen, we've seen people like El Generico, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's WrestleMania match was terrible, but the 4 matches we saw of him as El Generico in Ring of Honor have been outstanding.
Yeah, I think the other fun thing about covering Ring of Honor at the same time that I'm watching Impact is seeing the improvement of Michael Elgin, over that time.
Michael Elgin is another guy who I would strongly consider, because he had great matches against Generico. He had great matches. He even had a good match against Tommaso Ciampa before Tommaso Ciampa was anything to talk about.
And then he had that great series against, and I had my issues with the series, but that doesn't take away from the performance of both Eddie and Michael. I thought, given what they did, as much as I was a downer on the series because I didn't feel like the series showcased what they can both do, they both had great performances. So, that Eddie Edwards Michael Elgin series is actually elevating both these guys.
And just to be more of a Renaissance man, I suppose. I'm also going to throw in a woman here, and it's not going to be Tessa Blanchard. It's not Rhea Ripley. It's not Charlotte. It's not even Shayna Baszler. It's Taya Valkyrie. She's been absolutely phenomenal in everything I've seen her in this year.
Yeah, that's true too. It really is, and so is Ace Austin.
Yep.
Ace Austin's another guy that gets strong consideration. And keep in mind, guys, a lot of this stuff is we're looking at 2020, but we're also looking at, we're watching 2011 Ring of Honor. We're watching these independent shows. We're watching, other things in addition to 2020. So, yeah, Roderick Strong is going to get a nod because of the performance he had in 2011. So is Eddie Edwards, which is why Eddie Edwards is, up there at number 2, is because, and for both of us, because he had a strong 2011, and then also he's done some great stuff in 2020 as well.
Exactly.
I mean, Jesus, he's one of the top 5 or 6 matches all time in TNA Impact.
Yep, absolutely. In yours, mine listing for sure.
Right. So, it's Ospreay's clear number 1 because it just literally everything I've seen from Will Ospreay has been gold. His stuff in New Japan, his stuff in on this independent circuits, these one-offs that we saw, his match against Bea Priestley even was up there. He's like, everything Ospreay does has been gold this year. And then,
yeah, Ospreay has not done very much wrong over the last, almost 2 solid years.
Well, in 2020 alone, he's had 3 5+ star matches.
Yeah, I mean, since returning from the injury he had to his ribs in June of 2017, June of 2018, has been absolutely on fire.
I don't know if that rib injury changed him or not, but he's become such a much better storyteller over the last couple of years than he was. I mean, he used to be all about flips and everything, and now he's actually telling in-ring stories, which is something that was missing from him before, but has really elevated his game now.
Yeah, and that's the same way we felt about the Young Bucks 2 years ago too.
Yeah, that's true, Matt Jackson.
Yeah, so Ospreay's number 1, Edwards is number 2, Richards number 3, ZSJ number 4, and Roderick Strong number 5.
Yeah, and I still have Takahashi in there, so my Roderick Strong might be number 6, but Takahashi, it could easily change if he keeps performing in these retro shows that we're doing the way that he was, and on NXT against Velveteen Dream, he could easily hit my top 5.
I want to talk about one more thing briefly before we head off, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we've got everything up to Double or Nothing for AEW has now been taped, and then they got their pay-per-view coming up at Double or Nothing, and then who knows what they'll be doing after that. I mean, I'm assuming since Georgia now has decided to open their country or their state to everything, they'll be able to tape again at that Georgia facility. They taped these last few shows, and even if Florida isn't open up yet. Does it make any sense to bring in the Revolt before there's a crowd to cheer for them, or to be surprised by them?
Please tell me they're not calling about the Revolt.
Oh, I think the Revolt is amazing. That's a great name for them.
No, I don't like that at all. At all. I'm not even sure.
Why? They're revolting. They're revolting against the last 3 years of being buried. They're revolting against arresting. Revolting against the idea that maybe they're washed up. They're revolting against the stigma that's on them right now.
What were their new names too? It was Cash
Wheeler and Dax Harwood.
Dax Harwood. Okay. Yeah. No. I don't think so. I think they've got some WWE money to live off of, depending on how long this goes. I think holding them off for a little bit is a good idea. Introduce them during a live crowd. I don't think this is a team that's going to lose anything from that.
No, and to be clear, they haven't been signed anywhere yet, as far as I'm aware. And I really hope that when they do get signed somewhere, we don't hear about it until they actually debut somewhere.
Last I heard was signing with both AEW and NWA.
That's the last I heard as well.
Which the only, like we talked about this last week, the only people I want to see actually on the roster are Rusev and I guess the Revolt, which I'm not a fan of that name, but whatever. Those are the only two acts I want to see actually in AEW.
What was the name that I suggested for them? I'm trying to think what that was. It wasn't that far off from the Revolt, though.
No, but it made a little more sense.
I'm trying to find it in our conversation here.
Was it here or was I at work? I was probably on text.
I think it was on text.
The other thing I want to get your thoughts on, because I think it's top of mind and I have some real issues with it.
It was the Resurgence.
Okay, that actually is a better name. I don't like the Revolt. But regardless, the one thing I did want to bring up, and it wasn't until you brought up the Revolt that I actually thought about it, but did you see the plans for Money in the Bank?
To wrestle on top of the headquarters of WWE?
No, to wrestle through the headquarters of WWE. They start on floor number 1 and fight their way up to the ladder at the top of Titan Towers.
Oh, so it's like the old Tower of Doom in WCW?
Except worse, because it doesn't happen in just one ring.
with collapsible platforms that people can fall through when you're getting slammed on.
When I heard this, thought, okay, they went out on a limb with the Edge and RKO thing. A lot of that was done simply because nobody in the audience, it was kind of what we've always wanted a street fight or no holds barred match to be. The typical street fight and no holds barred match goes up into the crowd, maybe goes to a backstage area, sometimes out into the where the concessions are and everything, but ultimately always ends up in the ring. What we got out of Edge and Orton was an actual street fight that just kind of went everywhere in the building. Now they're taking that to another level, and they're saying we're going to start in the lobby of Titan Towers, and you have to fight up every fucking level until you get to the roof, then fight in the ring, then climb the ladder. Is it just me, or is that a little too much?
Can we expand on that idea a little bit? Like I think that it would have worked great. It would have worked great if they had done it differently. If they had the qualifying matches taking place in different levels of the company, and then the actual ladder matches on the roof.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
That makes sense to me.
I think
having an entire match where you're trying to fight your way to the top. I mean, what is it? It's gonna be like a haunted house with like obstacles. You have to try to. Is it gonna be like one of those like what was that Japanese show where you had to jump like on wheels that were spinning and all that kind of crap, Yeah.
The only way this makes sense, the only way, is if 99% of the match is in the stairwell. Otherwise, it doesn't. I mean, there might be a spot where one guy takes an elevator up one of the stairs, but ultimately, the first guy, in any real sense of any kind of logical anything, is the first guy who's standing on floor 1 is just going to take the elevator up to the top floor. I mean, seriously.
That's hilarious.
Well, everybody chases him up and he's already in the ring. This is not going to go well. I can't see any scenario where this goes well.
Well, the good thing about it, though, is that unlike the ladder match that we saw at WrestleMania, they're not going to have a crowd. They're not going to even have an empty arena to play to. So it'll have to be more real in that sense.
Yes, but seriously.
And honestly, after last week, talking about Gargano versus Ciampa, I said it's pretty much done with that complete company, and now it's got me to the point where I might actually have to want to watch those Money in the Bank ladder matches to see what they look like.
I don't know that I can because none of it.
It's got that going for it.
It takes all logic out of the window because the only way you're going to have a decent match is to have them fight on the lobby, and whoever's standing at the end of that just goes straight up the elevator to the top. And maybe, after he gets in the ring, he's winded so somebody can catch him. But ultimately, it's fighting up the stairwell just doesn't intrigue me at all. At all.
What about the threat of somebody falling off the roof, just like the Giant did at that pay-per-view against Hulk Hogan?
Because it doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. They're going to be fighting up stairwells. That's the only way to make this even a match. And then it's going to be fucking 45 minutes long of people fighting up stairwells because that's the only thing that makes logical sense. Who is going to go up the second floor unless you have to grab a flag or something to progress to the next level? Who's going into floor number 2 or 3 or 4? You're trying to get to the top of Titan Towers. Unless you have a reason to go into floor number 2 or 3, it makes no sense.
Yeah, maybe, like I said, maybe they'll have some kind of obstacle course. Like maybe they'll block off like the elevator. Maybe there will be like blocks on each level where if you go to level 1, you have to go to a different staircase for level 2, and so on and so forth.
It's the only way it's going to make sense. But from their initial pitch of starting on floor 1 and fighting your way up the towers, up the tower to the top, to the roof, to be in a ring, to climb a ladder, it just the way their initial pitch is really doesn't make sense. They're going to have to revamp this over the next couple of weeks.
No, but I really want to see Apollo Crews get thrown off the roof, by Rey Mysterio, and then before Mysterio can climb the ladder to get the Money in the Bank, he's accosted by Daniel Bryan and whoever else is in that match, and at the end of that match, the Spectre, which is Apollo Crews, comes floating up onto the top of the roof and grabs the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Dear God, please no. It's bad enough already. Let's not include the Spectre. Oh my God. Anyway, guys, I think we've reached our pinnacle here. So make sure, if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. We do this live thing twice a week for sure. And we try to throw in 1 to 2 extra shows a month, which hopefully will be starting soon as my life evens out a little bit. And of course our patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Go there, you can get a hold of all of our archives, everything we've done since 2014, plus the extra stuff we do. One of which we just did last week. Next one we're going to do next week, which is a retrospect of the, what do you call them, those Sinclair years of Ring of Honor?
The Sinclaira of Honor.
Sinclair of Honor, which is basically 2011 and beyond. Not every show, but we're doing trying to do the high points. Last one we did was Best in the World 2011, which was a great show. And of course Twitter. I'm at ReggieCoop. He's at ZanmanLOP. Use hashtag ROH and hashtag KOH and hashtag DAD. You can get a hold of everything we do on there.
And make sure you tune into all the other LP radio shows. We'll be back with you tomorrow night with Dynamite After Dark. Last week we did an experiment. We actually talked during the entire episode, kind of did running commentary on it. So give that a listen if you haven't yet. And then on Thursday night, Imp will be here with his LP Radio Adventure. On Friday, the WWF The Legacy Series continues. And then we'll be back with you next week to talk about Night 1 of Impact's Rebellion. That's airing tonight on Access TV. And will be available on Impact Plus probably Friday. That's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.